really young people to have a say on matters that affect them. I think
this focuses on the social issues and environmental impacts.
How many people, not only young people, how many people even here in Zambia are aware, you know?
And just earlier on today, I was actually trying to interact with
youth, and especially for caring for women. But do you think that this...
The world's greatest spy. Yes! The war between babies and puppies is going deep undercover.
Tim! Meet your new brother.
This year, I think the kid might be onto me.
You can talk!
Ah! Poop duties!
Just wait till Mom and Dad find...
Power nap! You were saying? Two unusual brothers.
I'm on a mission.
And you're going to help me.
Let go, you little...
Oh, look, the kids are finally getting along.
That's nice. Two unwilling partners.
How do we get past the guard? No way. I've never been so humiliated in all my life.
Alec Baldwin.
Come on, this way.
Down south represent your coast.
DreamWorks The Boss Baby.
I don't wear nautical.
You're putting this thing on.
What's all the racket?
Oh, isn't he adorable?
Oh, I've got one for you too.
What? What kind of a man would you become had you inherited your father's kingdom instead of being raised in the gutter?
You've got the wrong man, sire. I've never had any power or any desire to achieve it.
As much as I'd like to believe you, your character makes that unlikely.
Behold, the man who pulled sword from stone.
I'm gonna kill him. You don't need an army. You just need this little rabble.
You made quite a celebrity of yourself.
You're playing with fire.
But doesn't it make the palace burn well?
really young people to have a say on matters that affect them. I think
this focuses on the social issues and environmental impacts.
How many people, not only young people, how many people even here in Zambia are aware, you know?
And just earlier on today, I was actually trying to interact with
youth, and especially for caring for women. But do you think that this, you know, studying this field that we're expecting, just a little bit about it and how best young people can understand this?
really young people to have a say on matters that affect them. I think
this focuses on the social issues and environmental impacts.
How many people, not only young people, how many people?
It's good to know that you have time to join us every Friday on Our Perspective at 17:15 hours entirely. This is a production where the voices of young people, you know, lie at the center of this program. It's called Our Perspective, where the views of young people are respected. And indeed, we love to give out our perspectives over various topics that we discuss, from social and economic as well as political issues that we discuss. But today we take a very, you know, interesting route discussing education. Many of the times we're discussing quality education and equitable and quality education. You do aware that amongst the 17 sustainable development goals, education on goal number 4 is, you know, key priority amongst stakeholders everywhere and anywhere around the world. And this past week, many, you know, activities happening from higher learning institutions, and particularly from the University of Zambia. But I must say that our focus really is not on, you know, what's been happening there at the University of Zambia, but entirely over all learning institutions, suspensions. This past week, students rioting at the University of Zambia and going to the streets because they haven't been paid, particularly project and accommodation allowances that they claim is very important and they need to be sustained in their livelihoods at the university. But we take a key role in looking at the suspension and the bans. How effective and what is the major core objective of unions in higher learning institutions being suspended? And my guest today will definitely highlight their next row of action in line with the suspension of unions. And my guest joining me on the program today, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome, you know, ZANASU President Joseph Pusenga. It's a pleasure having you again, the second time.
It's a pleasure to Mr. Moderator.
Yeah?
Thank you so much.
Please, take a seat. I think last time you came through on the program, very interesting thing that we were discussing and very pertinent for viewers was illicit behavior amongst students, particularly at the National Institute of Public Administration. And this time around, I think I invite you again on this platform to come and clear the air on issues surrounding suspensions and bans of unions and what's been happening recently at the University of Zambia. But not only at that institution, other institutions as well, we definitely reference only the University of Zambia. But as president of the Zambia, president of all colleges and higher learning institutions, what is running through your mind when you look at the situation of all of these institutions that are being suspended, especially union bodies in Zambia today? Very long question, but I must say, I want the board to begin by what happened recently. What is your stance, really?
First and foremost, even before we get to the suspension of student bodies, I want to state in essence that we as ZANASU, we do not take any appeasement in students rioting. Yes, we know we have a constitutional right to demonstrate, but the demonstration must be peaceful and should not result into a riot. The moment it results into a riot, we do not support it because a lot of property is damaged, both individual property, private property, and government property. And what we're advocating for is dialogue. And once we advocate for dialogue, we do not expect anyone to come and stand and suspend any student body. Such an action mystifies us because that is so unreasonable. It means someone has forgotten about the grand norm, because here in Zambia, our constitution is the supreme law. And by virtue of Article 20, by virtue of Article 21, freedom of assembly, freedom of association, anyone is entitled to belong to a union. And when you suspend student bodies, then it means you are in serious violation of the constitution. And what worries me is that in Zambia we have a tendency of not regarding our own law, the law that we stand as the general rule to put in place in one document so that it presides over every one of us, and it is authoritative. But many of at times we tend to brush these laws aside as if we are brushing bylaws that are made by local authorities. It's quite shameful. And from my own burnings of the heart, I'm very disappointed with the Ministry of Education at large for taking a stance that does not give the students a proper direction. If you suspend the student leaders that are supposed to provide advocacy, interstate the students and management and other stakeholders.
What is the proper direction for you? The
proper direction is to be proactive as government, as the Ministry of Education, and not reactive all the time. I'll tell you, for instance, that each and every riot that we've had in Zambia, not only in learning institution, because I'm going back into history, the Chachacha riots, a lot of riots that have happened in Zambia are as a result of government not wanting to be proactive, government giving the people a blind eye, a deaf ear. Not listening is what extenuates everything and what precipitates students to engage into riots. But of course, we are not supporting riots, but I'm saying these are the things that contribute to riots. And the proper direction is to respect student bodies and the voice of the students. If the students want to be paid on time, then you pay them on time their allowances. Okay? If you go into history, at the University of Zambia, every time there's a riot, every time there's a go-slow by the lecturers, every time there's a peaceful demonstration, because government has decided not to honor its obligations, the obligation of paying meal allowances on time, the obligation of paying project allowances, among other things. I think that is what is fundamental. If government wants to avoid riots in this nation, then they must be proactive they should avoid sleeping. They've been sleeping for so long.
That is just an introduction. I'll be getting into detail with what is transpiring on the ground and your action and so forth and so on. But I would love to remind our viewers on the program later on at about 5:30, you'll be calling in to ask the president here questions, live phone calls, and you could alternatively send us SMSs on our Facebook page or on our text line. You're typing the letters PSP, the space, your SMS, and you're sending SMSs to 3322. Our website is www.movietv.com. All of these programs are online, and you could be a part of this conversation. Now, one question again that comes out, I think University of Zambia, one of the biggest, it is actually the biggest higher learning institution in the country. Now, what for you do you term as a peaceful demonstration? What does a peaceful demonstration look like in your own terms as president? What does how do you necessitate a peaceful demonstration?
I think that is a matter of common knowledge. That is nothing that has to do with
walking on the road with banners. Is that how you define a peaceful demonstration?
Indeed, it is. For as long as it does not amount into a riot, for as long as it does not amount into what would breach peace.
In this case, what is happening?
Peaceful demonstration. I will cite a practical example. What happened in Mlungushi University, where students decided not to go for class as a demonstration, class boycott. That was a peaceful demonstration. I will tell you that at Apex University, students decided not to go for class because management were stealing their monies. That was a peaceful demonstration. But of course, people do not understand. And what is exasperating is that those in authorities, those who expect that they must have a broader understanding of what peaceful demonstration, of what the Constitution connotes or express on what a peaceful demonstration is, they don't understand. And that is why we as ZANASU have cried foul, because we expect these people to be of average fortitude, we expect them to understand better. But them going ahead and suspending even those that peacefully demonstrate.
In this case, it wasn't a peaceful demonstration.
We are saying it is a malified practice. At the University of Zambia, if it were not peaceful, yes, partially we blame the students because they resorted into a riot, but above all, chiefly, we blame the Ministry of Education that have provoked the situation by holding on into the allowances that could be paid on time, because there are precedents. And the precedents that have been there, Mr. Moderator, allow me to elucidate so that I drive a point home. The precedents that have been there is that when students are delayed in being paid their meal allowances, accommodation allowances, among other allowances that are there at the University of Zambia, that did not start today, but since we got our independence, the allowances that Professor Kandulu also benefited, the allowances that the Republican president today, Mr. Edgar Chagwa Lungu, also benefited, are being delayed to be paid to the students that are coming from impoverished families. So those are the reasons as to why the students become berserk. And entirely, who do we blame? We blame the ministry, because the responsibility of the minister, among other things, is to make sure that those allowances are paid on time. Even the lectures at the University of Zambia went on go slow. Okay? Someone in employment going on go slow. What do you expect a student to do? You agitate them by delaying everything. Okay? And I'm saying that is a serious violation of an academic freedom. Because if you delay to pay research project allowances, research is very fundamental in academics, because it means you're not inspiring their minds. You just want to fill up their minds so that as they graduate, they do not even know any skill that they acquired because the research was delayed. I think it is from the research that each and every graduate acquires an ingenuity to practice that which they learnt at their various disciplines or faculties.
Let me get to how the whole lot of this situation started. Before we even get, I know you want to make lucid very, many points over this. Lecturers on go slow, students not having, attending class, no project allowances, no
accommodation
allowances.
As if that is not enough, they are even removed from accommodation. Proceed, Mr. Moderator.
You've got government paying over 75% of bursaries of students, over hundreds of students relying on government bursary. Don't you think there could be financial constraints at some point, sometimes? Because I heard the minister did mention that we've paid all other fees. The only thing is accommodation and project allowance, which is not much of a constraint. Why do you think that students have the first-hand, information of going to the street instead of dialoguing with the ministry or with government, like they did these are the past few days? Because when I spoke to the president of UNZASU, he said they've dialogued with the minister. So why don't they dialogue with the minister before? And you as president, how then don't you create a conducive environment to dialogue with students even before they can go to the street?
Mr. Moderator, stay at decisis. Stand by the decision. Because of the precedents that we've had, the Minister of Education, Professor Kanduluo, congratulations to us, she's a professor, the President of the Republic of Zambia, and other government officials benefited when they were at the University of Zambia because they received all these allowances. And the only thing that they would do would wake up, go to class, study. Did you know, Mr. Moderator, that back then they would even receive material allowances so that they could buy their textbook? The first Republican president, Kaunda, mollified these people. And because of that precedent, the students of today also expect to be treated the same. Equality, who comes to equity must come with clean hands. If previously benefited, then benefit the current students. Matters of dialogue, allow me to touch on that one. When students riot, it doesn't mean that they have not channeled their grievances in according to the right channel. No. What that means, it means that they have spoken, they've had serious meetings on different occasions with management, but because management and the ministry remain and choose to be lackadaisical, they are not enthusiastic about the concerns, about the grievances of the students, then students are agitated. I mentioned earlier that this is what extenuates, this is what exasperates the students to resort to rioting, because they are thinking maybe this illegal way of doing things will be heard. They ran to the streets, they began lighting fires all over the institution in the name of getting a response.
One question that I keep on asking is this the only way to ask government to dialogue? Because you spoke about having peaceful demonstrations, for example, boycotting class. Isn't it much response? Isn't it much demonstration you can give government for you to have a response to them? Because it looks like all the time it's all about throwing stones. It's all about lighting fire on the road. Do you understand how much harm you're causing the environment as students? Is there dialogue? I mean, are you in your rightful moral behavior? You could put it that way, for lack of a better term.
Mr. Moderator, I want to affirm that riots are not the only way of expressing a grievance, but there is provocation. If you sit on a round table, you tell members of the management your grievances, and they choose not to do anything, that is provocation.
And you take it to innocent people on the street.
That is where I do not support. So now, when you take it to innocent people in the streets, I do not support. You must keep it within the institution.
How do you keep it in the institution? Building of infrastructure?
No. I'm not supporting that. I'm not supporting that. What I'm saying is I'm justifying the riotous behavior that the students across the nation end up resorting to, because they do not cause the problem. Okay. They are provoked by members of management. They are provoked by members of government.
Do you think you can get a response from government if you did a march past, a peaceful demonstration of marching probably from here to the Ministry of Education? Do you think you can get a response?
But of course.
Why then do you allow students to go on the streets? Because, I mean, you have the power to dialogue with students from the University of Zambia, from Apex University, from Mulungushi University. I mean, you have the power to bring all of these presidents together.
Moderator,
and just a moment, you have the power to bring all of these presidents together, and before they can necessitate an action, you have the powers to put them together and dialogue before they can actually go to the street. But it looks like going to the street is the biggest, and the most easiest way that students have in Zambia today.
Mr. Moderator, I'm glad you took that channel. I want to tell you that marching from point A to point B in Zambia is not possible. Why? Because of the Public Order Act, Section 5, subsection 4, which requires us to get a permit. And when you go to get a permit, they tell you that you cannot get it today. You continue suffering until the very day when you're authorized.
So and why don't you follow the law then?
And on the material day when you're authorized, police officers come. This is something that we have seen. We will not beat around the bush about this. Police officers, traditional police officers, come and pretend they do not know what is happening. And they classify such a march past as a conduct that is likely to cause the breach of peace. And the end result is them, because they are trigger happy, they end up firing tear gas. They end up arresting everyone. Classical example, students at Mulungushi University, class boycott, whilst eating in the cafeteria, whilst resting in their rooms, police officers were in charge breaking their doors, getting to their rooms, arresting students whilst having their meals. Why? They wanted to be commended for a work well done on wrong grounds. Okay? How do you arrest people that are not throwing stones? Mulungushi University is built of glass, Mr. Moderator. And it is myopic for anyone to say students at Mulungushi University were rioting. And when you look at the infrastructure, nothing is broken. I'm telling you, that pains me, because I'm looking at the whole system that do not know what the word riot means. The whole system not well vested with the Queen's language. I think that is disheartening, because how do you classify a riot when nothing is broken? When you are arresting students while having shima, maybe chewing, the end result of chewing is a riot, maybe.
Why do you riot over something that you have been promised you'll be paid? For example, project allowances, accommodation allowances not being paid. You promised by the minister these allowances will be paid in full in due time. Students still go to the street to throw stones. Innocent people having their cars broken down. Surely, what is your stance, and how do you try to address such a situation as a president of all unions in Zambia?
Mr. Moderator, I will not behave as if I were a plain slate. Something that has been happening since 1964 is no longer a promise. It is binding. It has matured from a privilege to an entitlement. Allowances, meal allowances, and all the allowances that are being paid at the University of Zambia are not happening for the first time. It is a custom, and the custom acquires a legal backing. And once these are not paid, it means it's a violation of that custom.
When there's a delay and not paid? When there is a delay of payment of these allowances, does it mean government will not be able to pay these allowances?
Mr. Moderator, if you are delayed to have your lunch by 7 hours, what happens?
Is it a bad thing? Is it a bad thing?
It is a bad thing to be delayed. It is a bad thing because it hinders progress. Okay? No student would want to study if their meal allowances are not paid, owing to the fact that a student has come from Shangombo, where their parents are peasant farmers, and entirely depends on the sponsorship of government who have put them on bursary, and he expects meal allowances. And the parents are so happy, thanking God. But one individual decides not to channel the resources in a proper direction. I think that is one detriment that this nation is facing in relation to sustainable development. Poor direction of investments.
So what you're telling us, Mr. President, today is students should never be delayed to be paid the accommodation or project or whatever kind of allowances, even if there's a constraint in government resourcingness of fund, you know,
Mr. Moderator,
dishing out of funds to the institution.
Mr.
There shouldn't be any delay of that sort.
Mr. Moderator, allow me to cut you short. If you're a parent, you ought to prioritize. You will not buy luxurious things that we do not need in this nation and delay in feeding your own children. I think that is danger of illogicality. It means you're not being logical. Students must not be delayed to be paid their allowances, because investment in education is what will lift this country to get greater heights. An angry man is an angry person. That is the principle. You delay paying them, they are starving, they are being impoverished. How do you expect them to progress with their studies? How do you expect them to be innovative? You don't. It is not possible. And we as ZANASU, we shan't allow any delayments in terms of paying the students their allowances. And we as ZANASU, we are not even happy that these student bodies have been suspended. And we are commanding the Minister of Education, Professor Kanduluo, with immediate effect to reinstate these unions, because it is against the Constitution to suspend them. It is high time that people in authority begin respecting the grand norm. These are not simple legislations that we can do away with at any time over a cup of coffee. No. She must lead by example, by following the Constitution to the letter. If matters of interpretation are so intricate to her, there are people that she should seek the advice of the Attorney General. Okay? Because the only time, the only exception to the general rule, the only clawback clause to Article 20, Article 21, is that when the riots are a threat to national security, students running around and about their institution demanding for what they're entitled to is never amounting to national security.
Even the break-ins.
You know what I think? I think people in these offices are becoming megalomania. They are being corrupt by the power that they possess. Okay? The Minister of Education owes the students of the University of Zambia a duty of care. More especially that is a constituency. It must be at heart and make sure that students are paid allowances on time. It must be a first priority to her because she's a beneficiary.
But you understand the ministry also is mandated to keep the universities to keep it a good, conducive learning environment and free from riots.
Yes.
And one way...
That's their mandate, and that explains why they must pay on time, to avoid. I'm talking about them being proactive and not reactive. We can't afford to be remedying defects every now and then. No, we must be very sharp in our minds to avoid certain problems.
I will be inviting callers to call through on the program and giving your perspectives. You could ask the president of ZANASU questions by typing the letters PSP, that space, and sending your perspective to 3322. Our call line is on, and we have a caller on the line. Do we have a caller on the line right now? So all of those phone calls are coming through right now on the program. We'll be getting all of the questions and comments and contributions before the President can actually respond to them. The number, again, is scrolling on your screen. Remember to send us the SMSs. You're typing PSP, leave a space, type in your perspectives, and you're sending your SMS to 3322. Our Facebook page is Our Perspective Movie TV. A suspension of union bodies amongst higher learning institutions. What is the way forward? Is it for the better is what we're discussing here with Joseph Zanasu, President. And you are actually clearing your point with the ministry, making the higher learning institutions a conducive learning environment. Just before you make that comment, we have a call on the program. Good afternoon. Your names and where you're calling us from. Yes, go ahead with your perspective.
How to become and then we are coming to and you can't do students, they come to break your heart. Are you the one who is a president or the government? That's what I'm saying. They want to run out and they want to mistake. Let them go to state house. Everyone knows where state house. Let them go and demonstrate there. They should also lead by example because they also teach leaders. So cannot direct the Minister of Higher Education. Let them go to the union If those employees cannot act you, they should remove them. Those are the ones that are supposed to go that can do oh, you have to do that and that and this and that. And then if you know not able to respond, that's when now they can take it and demonstrate with real legislative discrimination.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you for your perspective. We'll have the President respond. I think one of the biggest questions she's asking, who is paying you these allowances? Is it individuals, innocent people, car drivers on the greatest road, or is it government? Why are you breaking other people's cars? Even if you're angered or aggrieved, should it be the right way? Before you answer that question, I think you'll be able to respond to all of these questions. Please, when you're calling us on the program, turn off your TV or turn off the volume on your TV set when you're calling the program. Yes, your names and your perspectives. Hello. Yes, Jonathan, go ahead with your perspectives.
Mr. President, I think you need to understand two things here. What has been with the perspective? It's a currently just executive activities or the ongoing campaign. What has been with the suspended? Because in my thinking, the minister has suspended the ongoing campaign for the next two that were executive. And I don't think the minister has suspended.
Could we just have some sound from the Yes, Is that it? Hello? Okay, so our website is www.movietv.com. You could visit us online. You could be part of the conversation on Facebook. We have another call on the program. Please turn off the volume on your TV set. Remember, if you're calling into the program, your names and give us your perspectives, please. Okay, we'll have to invite all of those callers before the President can actually, respond to these questions. I would love to get 3 or 4 phone calls. Yes, your names and your perspectives, please. Your questions.
Yes, I'm Madam Daka calling you from Eastern Province.
Yes, ma'am. Thanks for coming in. Your question.
Yes, mine is a reminder to these students who are always on the road, take to the streets, turning innocent people, breaking their property. One thing that they should not chase by is that is taxpayers' money. Some of those children come from homes whose parents don't even know what it means to pay tax. And yet they take to the streets, breaking innocent people's back. Who are paid to the taxpayers? Who pays them those new allowances? So I think to the president, the union president, please advise your friends at the universities. They should do the right thing. Dialogue is important and not what they do. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am, for calling in. Your perspectives are still coming through on the number 3322. I would love to remind our viewers, do not send us SMSs on the call line. Remember, the call line is 0975 620455. Now, this call line is only for your live phone calls and not text messages. Yes, you're through to the program. Your perspectives, your questions to our president here.
Yes, this is Stephen from Dora.
Go ahead with your perspectives.
I think the reason why those students protest is because the government doesn't pay the money to the time. The government, the Sarah minister, and pay students in time, and see whether the students are going to protest or not. So if the government are paying themselves and they're denying allowances for students, for example, protest, lecturers will not wait until this so that the government says we are going to pay them. The lecturers will come with you, they want the students to do the project. Where are they going to get those money? So let the government pay the students in time to avoid all these things, and it will never happen again. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Don't forget, again, on the program, you can send in SMSs. I know that this number is very, very busy and could be very difficult to get through live on the program, but you can alternatively send us a message. And before we end, we hope that we could respond to all of the text messages. I will be taking 2 more phone calls. My director tells me your names, your perspectives, where you're calling us from.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Moderator.
Good evening.
And good evening, Comrade Defender.
Good evening.
Okay, I'd like to commend the Bill program to how you are working, Comrade Defender. I understand that it's quite a cumbersome job to put everything in order. And I want to also establish my disappointment that the government has taken. So instead of this coming out as a mother who taking care of the whole situation, they take it in a very bad process. This is actually dealing with the same problem that we are seeing right now. So I think maybe Comrade Musenga try to talk to the minister and see how you can resolve this whole situation. Yeah, I think that is my perspective.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Okay. Thanks for calling in. Thank you so much. Our SMSs, don't forget, it's PSP, leave a space. Bringing all of those questions before we could actually ask the president to leave. We'll be taking our last call. I hope that you could be the last caller. So keep on trying the phone calls. If you can't get through, you could send us a message. Your perspectives and your names and where you're calling us from. Hello, do we have a caller? Hello, do we have a caller?
Hello?
Yes, sir.
I am calling you from Savuma, Northwestern Province.
Northwestern Province. Yes, go ahead with your perspective, sir.
This is Mr. Tembo.
Yes, Mr. Tembo, go ahead with your perspectives.
I just want to give an advice to the President Union of Labour. I just want to advise the President Union at the University of Zambia to say he should not allow his people to be demonstrating on the road, but rather than just dialogue with the government so that the fees can be given to them and the new allowances. Because when you go on the street and then destroy food, that is taxpayers' money they are wasting. The money is supposed to be paid to them, again they go on the street to destroy a lot of things. I advise to talk to people that demonstration is not the way of handling issues, but rather than dialogue with the government.
Thank you so much, sir.
You're welcome, sir. I thank you.
Thank you so much. I don't know why we seemingly have 2 minutes to wind up, but I think many of the questions that are coming in, Mr. President, who is paying these resources, government or the individuals? Why are you taking individuals on the road? I think another thing that came to mind, this is taxpayers' money that you're wasting. Dialogue with the minister. How much as president do you dialogue? Do you even meet the minister? I think another question that did come in is commending you for the stance that you're taking. But briefly, around the few minutes that we have, taxpayers' money being wasted, dialogue with the minister. What is the way forward?
Mr. Moderator, not so long ago, 2 million spent in consulting the Zambian people whether we must withdraw from the International Criminal Court or not. Without any hesitations whatsoever, that project, that proposal was funded. What is wrong with giving the students their allowances on time? I made it lucid in the initial stages of this interview that we as ZANASU, we do not support any riots because we understand infrastructure must be protected for future use. And anyone who is saying that is taxpayers' money, everyone is a taxpayer, in case people didn't know. If someone is not in employment, for as long as they can buy anything, they end up paying tax. So that is something that we must brush aside. But of course, dialogue is what we want.
How often do you meet the minister?
Quite often, quite often. It is not just about meeting the minister, no. It is also about meeting the management of various learning institutions in particular.
So if you meet the minister more often, where do you see, where's the biggest challenge for you as overseer of all universities?
The biggest,
what is the biggest problem? If you meet the minister more often, I mean, you do dialogue, you speak to the minister, you offer your challenges to the ministry. What is the biggest problem then?
The biggest problems are mere conjectures, failure to prioritize, okay, other things over the students. And that is what we want. We want to be given first priority so that things are put in place. Because we are in these institutions to acquire skills. And poverty, lack of research are a hindrance to these skills that we are supposed to acquire. So when we dialogue, when we agree that in 30 days we are going to be paid our allowances, it must not take centuries. It means someone has not honored or someone has misdirected the funds. Instead of paying allowances, it goes whether we must withdraw from the ICC or not, and that project is funded 2 million. Do you know how many students have been put on bursary with that 2 million that was channeled into consulting? This is why I'm saying government as a whole likes priority, okay? Instead of looking at what is important, they go and fund things that do not yield positive, affirmative results for this great nation. I'm telling you, I've always given this example, that countries like China, countries like Singapore, have so much invested into education that it has seen their country economically benefiting. Someone told me the problem with this country is that we are busy doing politics of power and not politics of economics.
If our
focus were focusing on politics of economics, we were going to appreciate that in order for us to improve in this sector, we must get the students educated.
In conclusion,
Mr.
Mr. President,
are illiterate,
could you make a statement to Zambian people, to Zambian students, of what is the best way that you are taking on students and the rest of unions, are you still going back to breaking innocent people's cars? This is the biggest question that I raise, because on my way back home, these few days, one woman is literally crying over the road because her car has been broken down. So my question,
I think
are you finding,
we can apply a bat
Mr. President, are you finding, just a moment, are you finding the best way? Are you finding the best way to dialogue with government apart from riots? Just one statement and we're closing the program. What is the best dialogue?
I think the best dialogue is changing certain individuals in authorities, because they do not give us, they do not lend us their ears, and do not honor their promises in good time.
What about union leaders?
Union leaders always advocate on behalf of students. Every now and then, they don't even rest enough. They are always in meetings with management, explaining to management the challenges that the students are facing. But because, like I said earlier, but because you have individuals that have a laissez-faire attitude, that are like a DESCO, who are not willing to do their job, but want chairs in the offices, is what.
Thank you so much. I would love us to continue.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I want to appeal. In fact, I want to demand that all the unions that have been suspended, may she, the professor, reinstate them with
Thank you so much,
effect.
Mr. President. Once again,
thank you.
Pleasure having you, and I hope that you picked out one or two things. President of ZANASU, Joseph Busenga, makes a clear statement that, well, they're not for the riots, but they want excessive dialogue with the Ministry of Education, and we hope that education and much importance of the higher learning institutions will continue to have a conducive learning environments. I believe that amongst the sustainable development goals, the goal number 4 that talks about quality and equitable education can be achieved with a vision of 2030, and I believe this is our perspective. I hope that you too could have a chance to give out your perspectives on the program. Our Facebook page is Our Perspective Movie TV. Don't forget to visit us online on www.movietv.com. Get to like that fan page and get to view all of this program in case you missed it out. But don't forget, we're back with a repeat again on Sunday. In case you missed this particular episode, we're speaking about the suspension of union bodies in higher learning institutions. My name is Cheswa Kapasa. On behalf of the entire production team, Mr. Masumba Bright, and the technical team upstairs, my director is Taizia Chela. Join us back again next Friday. On behalf of my guest, Joseph, is the president of ZANASU. Thank you so much for watching. We love you, and God bless Zambia. Bye-bye. And especially for caring for women. Do you think that this, studying this field of expertise, just a little bit about it and how best young people can understand this? Okay.
Young people to have a say in matters that affect them. I think
this focuses on the social issues, on environmental impacts.
How many people, not only young people, how many people even here in Rwanda are horrible,
And just earlier on today, I was actually trying to interact with
youth, and especially for caring for women.